Joining us once again on the program to break down the history of and the current state of the farmers' protests ongoing in India is Washington Post journalist Sabrina Malhi. Welcome back to the Damage Report.
Thank you for having me.
Glad to have you here, and especially on this topic. This is something that we've discussed several times on the show, but for a lot of American news consumers, it is news to them. So if you could catch us up, what's been going on in India? What was the origin of these protests?
Sure. So it started in September when the current prime minister passed these 3 farm laws that would essentially deregulate current agricultural laws in India. And it wasn't met with a lot of hope, and it wasn't met with kindness, because essentially by deregulating these laws, it would hurt a lot of the small farmers in India, which is a majority of the farming and the agriculture industry there. Protests started in September, and they really started getting larger, gaining more traction in December. And on India Republic Day, at the end of January, there were clashes between police officers and protesters and supporters. And I think since then, it's gained worldwide attention, especially because people like Rihanna have tweeted, Kamala Harris's niece, Mina Harris, Greta Thunberg, and a lot of other big name people. It's gaining a lot more attention worldwide, and even here in the States, we've had a number of protests in New York, California, DC, in support of the farmers from people in the diaspora.
And so the concerns are there's economic concerns, certainly. These farmers say that their livelihoods are at stake, but there's also, as there are in some other countries, there's a bit of a suicide epidemic going on there as well.
Yes. So farming since the 1960s in India has declined, which has caused poor output of crops, which has caused farmers to lose a lot of revenue. Their inventory has gone down. Crops have been damaged because of the low quality of fertile soil. Like how it is here in America too, big corporations and conglomerates are buying up all these small farms and putting people out of work. So Indian suicide rates have just exponentially increased over the past few years.
Wow, that's absolutely terrible. And now you mentioned that there's been international focus on this. Celebrities both inside and outside of India have been talking about this more. And it seems like the Indian government, police in New Delhi are not taking kindly to this new focus, and especially international outsiders, whether it's celebrities or activists like Greta Thunberg, they've reacted pretty poorly to that, right?
Absolutely. They see it as an attack on being Indian, being Hindu, more so than what it actually is, which is essentially a human rights issue that's going on in India right now. Since the protests have started, people have actually committed suicide during the protests. And it's hurt a lot of families who are trying to protest while trying to maintain their farm. People are sleeping in the streets. People are sleeping out in the cold. It's wintertime in India right now. So when India sees other people, sees quote unquote outsiders speaking against this, they see it as an attack on their democracy, an attack on who they are as a country.
And there was we talked earlier on the show today about an activist, Disha Ravi, who was jailed a few days ago, and they're saying that she's seditious, that she's a traitor effectively. Are these serious charges? Is she in serious legal jeopardy as a result of this?
Absolutely, she is in serious legal jeopardy, and she is just one of many people who have been outspoken, who have been protesting. Another woman, 20 years old, named Noldeep Kaur, is an activist, protested, also was arrested by the police, has been jailed. Her sister says that there's claims of sexual assault being done to her by the police, and it just doesn't seem to get any better because there's no regulations against what charges are brought up against people. And you see this a lot of journalists were jailed for speaking out. Indian media ranks very poor on the press freedom index. So whenever people are speaking out against this, they have to be fearful that they might have some sort of repercussions against them with the government.
So it's been going on for a few months, and you've mentioned how some of the violence has escalated. Do we have any way of knowing, other than the fact that more people seem to be paying attention, is it having its desired effect? Is there any indication that some of these regulation changes might be rolled back or adapted based on what the farmers have been saying?
Well, I think the protests are actually working in the sense that it's bringing attention and putting pressure on the Indian government. So what happened recently is Narendra Modi's administration pushed back the implementation of these laws for 18 months. They've tried to, well, they said they've attempted to meet with farm union leaders and people who are heading these protests to come to some sort of agreement. Now that hasn't gone through because the agreements don't seem to fit well with what the farmers and the protesters want. I don't know, being how Narendra Modi's government is, if they're actually going to roll back these regulations. But for right now, they've put a small Band-Aid on it. So there is some sort of pressure that's leading them to do this.
And any idea, have any of the leaders of the protests made clear, like, is this a thing that they're prepared to continue for a month, 6 months, even longer? Do we know where this might go from their point of view?
So these people are willing to basically die for this cause. They said either we're going to die at these protests or we're going to either die on our farmlands, because they have no other options. There are no other options. These are not large farms where you have hundreds of acres that your yields of crops are so great that you can afford to take these risks. These are small farmers which India is made up of 60% of small farms. So these 1 to 2 acre farms, this is their whole entire livelihood. If they lose this, they're going to be put out of work, they're going to be starving, and they're not going to be able to provide for their families. So I don't think in their eyes there is an alternative action or an alternative course to take.
And I think that point that you make is very important. For people in America, we have this sort of myth of what farming is like, and largely it's been replaced by massive corporate farms, but that is still actually really like that. And so it's a very different situation. Sabrina, we really appreciate your work in this area and catching us up on this. I know you've been following the situation, and we look forward to seeing more of your work in this area in the future. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.
For more political news breakdowns, interviews, stories of activism, and me trying my hardest to care about the occasional big celebrity news story, subscribe to our YouTube channel at youtube.com/thedamagereport. And you can ring the bell wherever it is so you don't miss anything.